Hello guys and welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a review of Sea of Thieves to see if it's worth getting into in 2023. So as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, Sea of Thieves was a game with a pretty rough start back in 2018, being labelled as boring and repetitive. But in the 5 years since release, Rare has massively improved the game, adding more factions, voyages, PvP and PvE content, and a whole host of other things to keep the game fresh. If you're an old player, the game might feel dry, but for a new player, there is still hundreds of hours of content to enjoy before the game even gets slightly boring. Now, the game started off as a fun but empty sandbox. The voyages were repetitive and there was no end goal. You spent hours running around catching pigs or chickens just to scrape together enough gold to buy some trousers and a jacket. That was literally it. It's all you could do. But since then, Rare have massively built on this game, and so I'm looking at if the game holds up for new and old players in 2023. And in my opinion, without trying to spoil the rest of the review, it definitely does. So firstly, I'm going to look at a core aspect of the game, which is the 3 original factions and the reputation system for those 3 factions. So the 3 factions are the Gold Hoarders, the Order of Souls, and the Merchant Alliance. When these were released, which they came obviously out with release, they were quite bare. There wasn't really much way to level up, but since launch, Rare have massively built on the ways you can level up and have added a ton of new voyages for these 3 factions, which have made leveling up refreshing and enjoyable. So some of the ways that they've been able to improve the leveling up system is the addition of Ghost Fleet voyages for the Order of Souls, Vaults for the Gold Hoarders, and the Sunken Merchant Ship voyages for the Merchant Alliance, which have made the 3 factions so much more interesting to play and level up. And combined with all the new ways of collecting loot via PvE and PvP, it feels much less of a grind to level up reputation to level 50 and 75 than it used to. The original voyages for these factions, the Skeleton voyages, the Captain voyages for Order of Souls, the X-Marks the Spot and Real voyages for the Gold Hoarders, and the Chicken voyages, basically the collecting animals for the Merchant Alliance, were enjoyable but did get repetitive. If you're a new player and you're starting out playing these voyages, you'll definitely enjoy them, but after a while, if you're an old player like myself, you'll never touch them again. But to start with, these are very good bare bones of the game. Now, the addition of the Fort of the Damned, Ashen Forts, Ghost Fleets and Skeleton Fleets are all very fun PvP world events which have been added since launch, which just make the game so much more enjoyable and also make it much easier to level up. They still hold up very well today, and in my opinion, so do the Skeleton Captain voyages and the X-Marks the Spot voyages, whilst the Riddle and Merchant Animal voyages do feel very boring in 2023. Now, there are also 3 other factions alongside the main 3. Athena's Fortune, which has been around since launch, and the Reapers and Hunter's Call, which have been added since launch, I believe, in the anniversary update. But Hunter's Call is basically just fishing. That's it. There's nothing else to it except that. But it can be fun to fish, especially when you are sailing or a bit bored. But for the Hunter's Call, it's a tedious grind to level up to max, and even I still haven't, even after buying the levels at the black market for basically every month for about 3 years. It's fun, but the Hunter's Call is just too grindy to make it enjoyable, and it's not a good payoff. But fishing on its own is definitely fun. Now, the Reapers is another way to level up, which runs alongside the main 3 in the respect that you can sell all types of loot to the Reapers. It can be played as a totally PvE faction if you're weird like that, but no one really does that because the grind is too repetitive. It's mainly used by people who want to PvP and steal loot, and so if you're into PvP and the PvP aspect of the game, it is definitely very enjoyable, and I definitely recommend it. It is very fun to sink people, but the issue is, a lot of people complain at being sunk by Reapers and at them being toxic, and so if you're a new player, you really have to expect you are going to be sunk, you are going to probably be shouted at. Is part of the game. Being toxic in voice chat is not part of the game, but being sunk and having your loot stolen after hours is part of the game. And so really, you've got to just, accept it. And a lot of the enjoyment from the game comes from having to look out for other people and always be ready to run or fight. For new players, there's a pretty steep skill gap though. That's the only issue. Because with the removal of the arena, which I'll talk about more later, players don't really have an easy way to constantly practice PvP aside from a new PvP system, which again I'll talk about later. Combined with poor PvP anyway, and terrible hit reg, especially on the blunderbuss, it can make PvP very tough and unenjoyable for new players, and even old players like myself can get annoyed at it because of stuff like hit reg. Although, again, PvP can be totally avoided if you want to avoid it, and if you play smart, but I definitely recommend practicing PvP beforehand, especially practicing a bit before you start playing properly, and don't stack loot. That's my biggest piece of advice. Stacking loot may look cool for screenshots, but if you're new, or even if you're old, I still do this, just sell the loot after every voyage so you don't lose progress and don't have to complain about it. Now, the final faction is Athena's Fortune, and if I'm being honest, this is the most boring out of all the factions, especially to a new player. The way to level this up by completing the very, very outdated base Athena voyages, which take hours to get the Athena's chest, or to complete the newer Thieves Haven Legend voyages, which are more fun, but also tedious. The Fort of the Damned and Ashen Forts are definitely the most fun way to level up Athena's, but you don't really do these forts solely for that chest, and to me, the faction definitely fades into the background of the game, and after a while, you'll probably just get bored of it. But if you combine all the factions, there's simply so much to do. There are over a dozen voyage types for you to enjoy and immerse yourself in, whether it's solving a riddle, following a map, killing skeletons, or even just delivering cargo. There is so many ways to progress and level up. You can level up in any way, and you're not restricted by just one, and with all the content and ways to level up through PvP and PvE, Sea of Thieves still keeps its core values by being refreshing and fun. You can approach each voyage in a different way, and with the added threat of other players or ambient threats like the Kraken or Megalodon, you're always kept alert and you're always enjoying the game. But anyway, back to the PvP aspect. The removal of the arena was one of the changes that I'm most upset about. I mean, the arena was added in the anniversary update, and whilst losing popularity over time, it was still such a fun way to drop in and out of Sea of Thieves for, a quick 15 minutes to an hour sessions, purely just of PvP. With this removal, the accessibility of quick PvP was gone, and until they added the new Guardians of Fortune and Servants of Flame factions, well, it just wasn't there. And these voyages are fun, where you fight against either Athena's faction or the Reaper's faction in quick and scale PvP matches, where you have a 1v1 against a ship size of yours with the same number of players. And it's fun and offers accessible PvP as well as good golden rewards, but it can get boring. And the arena was just so much more fun. I probably played hours and hours and hours of arena. There were times where I was playing more arena than the main game. But with it being removed, a lot of the PvP-focused players moved into PvE, which created a bit of tension, a bit of anger. But really, the removal of the arena was my probably least favourite thing they've done over the 5 years I've played. But the new faction system is very, very fun. You can drop in and play with Guardians of Fortune or Servants of Flame, and I really recommend it. I really enjoy it, but it can get very tedious, and new players should probably avoid it. Now anyway, once you reach level 50 in any of the three factions, aside from the Athenas or the new Guardians of Fortune factions, you become a Pirate Legend. And this was kind of meant to be the final reward for dedicated players, but it only unlocks access to the Pirate Legends Tavern and, well, you guessed it, more cosmetics. It's a bit underwhelming. Rare did increase the original faction to level 75 to keep OG players playing, but still, it's very easy to achieve. And for a new player, though, the grind will definitely be enjoyable, up until Pirate Legend, but after, it kind of does lose a lot of enjoyment and become a bit of a slog. But with the factions out of the way, let's move on to the currency of the game, gold. I mean, there are three currencies in the game: gold, doubloons, and ancient coins. Doubloons, well, they used to be exclusive and rare. You used to barely be able to get them, and you'd save them and spend them wisely. But now they're very common and let you purchase black market items as well as levels for factions in certain voyages, but they're pretty irrelevant and fade into the background. Ancient coins are a premium currency. You can only get them by spending real world money or getting lucky and getting a few from ancient skeleton spawns. If I'm being honest, it's a bit annoying because some of the cosmetics in the Emporium are amazing and you can tell Rare spend a lot of time and put a lot of effort into them. I mean, you've got some of the best ship cosmetics in the game and pets, but sadly they're all up behind the paywall. I can't really complain much though, because Rare have released about 33 massive DLCs since 2018, and so I don't feel too annoyed about having to pay for cosmetics with real money. Finally, to gold. You get gold from selling anything to any faction. Everything in the game earns you gold: Tall Tales, PvE voyages, Hunter's Core, you name it, it gets you gold. But gold can only be spent on cosmetics. You can only buy faction upgrades for new titles or buy ships which you can captain. And aside from that, it's just reskins that you can buy: clothes, weapons, skins, item skins, and ship decoration. I don't think the game becomes meaningless because of this though, especially as a new player, there's so much to spend your gold on. I mean, there are hundreds of ship cosmetics, but if you're an old player, there's less and less to be able to spend gold on as you play and as you spend, which can make the grind pretty pointless. But if you are new, don't expect to be able to buy anything to actually make you better. Every purchase is purely cosmetic. Now I'm going to move on to my personal favourite aspect of Sea of Thieves, Tall Tales. These are purely PvE experiences focused on the story and lore of Sea of Thieves. There are 18 tales overall: the Maiden Voyage, an introduction to Sea of Thieves, which serves as a tutorial for 9 original tales, which are a bit grindy to repeat, but are very, very fun. The 2 Pendragon tales, the Monkey Island tales, only one as I'm making this video, and the 5 Pirates of the Caribbean tales. Now, these are story-driven experiences which are super fun to do alone or with some friends. The Pirates of the Caribbean tales are absolutely superb and some of the most fun I've ever had playing Sea of Thieves. I won't spoil anything, but meeting Jack Sparrow and experiencing the Sunken Kingdom were absolutely superb and are just a testament to how good this game is. The Monkey Island tale has been released in a very dry period of the game, but the first one at least that I've played was very fun, focused on puzzle solving, and was definitely well received. There are 11 other major tour tales which are super enjoyable and focus on puzzle solving, PvE and riddle solving, and honestly, if you're new to Sea of Thieves or even an old player, just go play these tour tales. They are Sea of Thieves at its best. I mean, the Pirates of the Caribbean tour tale felt so surreal because I absolutely adored Pirates of the Caribbean, and to see it brought to life in Sea of Thieves, one of my favourite games, was just exceptional. From fighting Davy Jones to exploring Tortuga, it was like being submerged in a whole new world, and the stunning visuals of the Sunken Kingdom in Tortuga were like no other I've experienced in a game before, and are a testament to the work of Rare on this game. So, play the tour tales, play the Pendragon tales, the Heart of Fire, unbelievable. The Seabound Soul, unbelievable. All the tour tales are so well crafted, so fun, and so repeatable, and offer you great cosmetics. You can get curses, you can get unique ship items, all for free, as well as gold. Definitely go and play them. Now, focusing on other PvE aspects, there is so much to do when it comes to PvE and Sea of Thieves. Since release, Sea of Thieves have added a Megalodon, well, 5 of them. Although one doesn't really exist, I'm sure if you play the game you know what I mean. To go alongside the Kraken, as well as more ambient threats such as like angry merfolk, and then some other island threats. There's this one that just breathes like smelly stuff out, and an eel, but I don't really know what they are. They're kind of a bit irrelevant. But alongside the creatures in the game, there are also skull forts, ashen forts, forts of the damned, skeleton fleets, ghost forts, ghost fleets, and ashen lords. Quite a lot of stuff, which have now been made easier and scaled to crew size, meaning they're all very fun and easy to complete solo or with friends. Forts are definitely the hardest and take the longest to complete, but are the most fun and offer the best rewards. Honestly, my favourite thing to do in this game now is just to do Ashen Forts. They're so fun. They're pretty easy, and they are, obviously you probably get snuck up on by a player, so you've always got to be alert. Fleets are also a great way to experience ship-on-ship combat without the fear of, other players, while Ghost Forts and Ashen Lords are smaller, but also very fun things to do across the world. All of these, except for the Damned and Ghost Forts, though, are random world events, meaning you'll have to wait before being able to do them again, sometimes for hours, which, in my opinion, makes them even better. But beyond all this, Sea of Thieves is a unique experience. It's one like no other game I've ever played, and it's one of the only games I can go back to and still enjoy after 5.5 years of playing. Whether I'm playing alone, doing world events, or fishing, or just going on and messing around with my friends, the game is always fun. Whilst I do take huge breaks from playing the game after getting burnt out, I've invested over 600 hours into this game and cannot say a bad thing about it. Sure, it does get repetitive, and sure, there is not a real end game, but it isn't really about the gold or the cosmetics. It's about the enjoyment you get from the game, and you get so much from it. The PvE and PvP are both so enjoyable with huge options to choose from, and the Voyages are great too, like I've mentioned. The tour tales are absolutely exceptional, and you can tell they're being crafted beautifully with so much love and care from the developers. The content DLC that gets added, such as Captaincy, tour tales, new factions, new voyages, and more, keep me coming back to the game, and so for a new player with all of this before you, you'd have so much to do. And overall, Sea of Thieves definitely holds up in 2023, and I would definitely recommend buying it, as it is a fun, unique experience, which definitely is better with friends, and even after 600 hours, keeps me coming back to replay it. And so if you haven't already got it, just get it. It's on Game Pass for free, so there's literally no reason, there's no excuse for you guys not to be playing this game right now. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this kind of different video, and if you did, it would be appreciated, of course, if you liked and subscribed. This video actually did take quite a long time, which is rare for my videos. But anyway, with that begging out of the way, I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.